Something that I've been dealing with recently that's really been kind of amusing, kind of terrible, is when people, like, I've been realizing that, like, when people try to come back into your life after you end on some, like, dissonant chord, and I don't know, maybe you had a falling out with someone, like a friend or something, and, or, like, you're in a relationship with someone and, like, things don't work out, and you aren't exactly on, like, the greatest of terms and you leave, and then recently, like, people have just been, like, trickling back in my life, like, skulking back in, trying to get back into your good graces. But the thing I hate is, like, when there's, like, this big dramatic commotion of, like, oh, well, I was wrong, and look at all the wonderful things we could do together, and do you remember the moment in the Riviera when we looked at the moon, and it's like, yeah, okay, let's do this shit, you know, like, let's make up. And I mean, you know, because, like, grudges, they can serve a purpose, but I mean, so, I mean, sometimes, like, you have to, like, do, like, pros and cons of, like, what it would be like to have this person back in your life, because when you think about it, it's like you probably had that falling out for a reason, which I recently realized, yeah, that's pretty, obvious when you start talking to them again, because sometimes they just want to talk about how great their lives have been. It's pretty, like, funny to me. This guy that I was friends with, he was like, yes, I apologize for all the bullshit, blah 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 blah. Let's be friends again. And so I'm like, why not? You know, it's like, it's been like a couple months, I think. Not really. I mean, like, what am I losing by hearing your side of the story? And so he just kind of goes into this, like, rambling, like, oh, well, you know, I'm doing pretty well. I have there are these two Italian girls that I'm kind of seeing, and they're kind of seeing each other, and you know, I realized since we've been apart that, like, I really need to get my social skills back, and I've been making a lot of friends and realizing how, and, like, when you're, like, hearing this, like, inner monologue that I get to hear, that I get to sit down on, it's turning into more, like, instead of, like, updating me on, like, what's new and, like, fresh and going on in your life, it turns into, like, and this is how great I'm doing since we've been apart and how much better off I am. And it's like, don't really care because you came back to, because it's not like I was seeking you out and being like, tell me all the ways you've been miserable since I've been out of your life. Like, it turns into this whole shitstorm of, like, and I have Swedish wives, and the world is at my feet and is at my oyster. So I'm like, okay, well, or, like, there's another, like, just don't talk to me then. Like, I mean, like, if you're having, like, such a great time, like, if that's the only thing you can talk about, like, your Swedish wives and, like, your parties of your awesome new friends, that's, like, cool, then talk to them, you know? It's, like, awesome. Another, like, another thing that just skulking and making an entrance into my life and just being terrible generally is the concept of, like, friends with benefits after you break up with someone, and you, like, you go your separate ways, right? And then you come, and, like, they, again, like, you remember the Riviera. It's like, yeah, I remember it, and I also remember how it ended poorly and how this shit sucked. And it's like, yeah, and, like, I can be, like, genial and, like, friendly and up to a point, but, like, we're still gonna have, like, the shit that was wrong originally with us, why things, like, aren't working out. Like, you could be a bastard or a coward, or you could just generally be passive aggressive and I'm not gonna want to deal with you anymore. So, like, when you come back with, like, the concept of, like, friends with benefits, when you're, like, already preaching some kind of, like, monogamous viewpoint originally, and that's not what you actually want from me, then I mean, it's like you want all of the bullshit trappings of a relationship that I could offer you, but then none of the fidelity and, like, good stuff. None of, like, the perks of relationship, but all of, like, the soulless, animalistic. Like, I'm making it sound so, like, terrible and one-sided, but it's like all of like all of my affections and none of the commitment. It's like I'm sure like some people can make it work. Some people like friends with benefits, but it's like maybe you try to establish a friendship first, or like some kind of maybe we're friends first. We have to be friends to have benefits, I think. Uh, because it's like remember how we're compatible and we like each other, and it's like okay, well try to make me like you again first, maybe, and then we'll talk. So yeah, that's just like the concept of like I'm not gonna like you just want me to be convenient, and it's like once you like establish that thought for me, and it's like, can you just like be there for my convenient like just things that I want from you, and then you don't get anything in return, really? I mean, not really. Not a real relationship. And so it's like I refuse to be like convenient for you to the point where like I will be very, very inconvenient. At this point, it's like gotta work for it, I think. Sometimes when you are a fucker, you don't get friends with benefits. This is just me like ranting about like terrible assholes in my life now, but yeah, this is my foray back into the vlogging world. I'm gonna try to do this more regularly and talk about like what's going on in my life more so because I don't really have a blog, but not a lot about like personal things. Just yeah, so I'm gonna try to keep up with this. Not a lot of people know about it, but maybe I'll become more entertaining and people will want to follow me more than German strangers that just like me socks. Call back to my other. You don't know about any of this, do you? We'll talk about it later.